Hello and welcome everyone to our third webinar on how can we become responsible consumers. Today we were supposed to have Joel, but he's been having trouble to join. Maybe he'll join in a bit. Anyways, we do have Sherry, and why don't you share a little bit about your own work and your own story of how you've either become or are promoting being a responsible consumer.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry Kriegel. I work for the United Nations Global Compact, which, if you're not familiar with that, we are the corporate sustainability special initiative to the United Nations. So I work with corporate sustainability and just sustainability in companies and really what they could do to better their business practices. So before joining the Global Compact, I wasn't too all familiar with being a sustainable consumer, responsible consumer. Didn't really know a lot about sustainability, but I've grown to really be a sustainability advocate, I think, and I've learned better business practices along the way. So I'm really excited to speak to you guys about being a responsible consumer because I have learned a lot just through my coworkers and personal experiences. Yeah, so I'm happy to dive into it.
Awesome. And I think you, if I recall correctly, also worked with Avon. Was that correct?
Yes, I used to be at the Avon Foundation. So I worked with their breast cancer awareness walks. So I used to be with kind of more of the like advocacy side. So I worked with a lot of breast cancer survivors and beneficiaries in the tri-state area and down in DC. So yeah, that was an amazing experience. I absolutely love working in the breast cancer field, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so I do have a lot of knowledge on that as well.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing. And also great to hear that you have a few different experiences. So a few of our members, specifically Eleanor and Filippo, were kind of curious, especially as students and recent graduates. Being a responsible consumer, a lot of times eco-friendly products and services can be a lot more expensive. So do you have any like 1 to 2 suggestions for responsible consumers with a tight budget?
Yeah, definitely. So I just have to say that I'm in the same boat as you guys. I'm a recent graduate, couple years out of college. So being on my own now, it's very hard to manage finances, but then also try to be sustainable and as environmentally friendly as possible. So I definitely understand the hardships of that. But I think the biggest thing being a responsible consumer is really using what you have. So if you already bought a purchase of something that isn't technically eco-friendly or sustainable, if you're throwing that out, it just adds to the bigger problem. So just use up what you have and really just reuse what materials you already have. Don't really go out of your way to go buying new things when you already have things at home. And I think that's something that I really taught myself. Sustainability, you don't have to buy something that's labeled sustainability to be sustainable and to be responsible. It's really using your resources that you already have. And then when you do use up all those resources, maybe kind of weigh the pros and cons, like in the end, this is going to be a sustainable purchase. Can I save up some money to buy this? So I think kind of thinking it in that way rather than like, I have to buy this. It says that it's eco-friendly. There are other ways that you could do it by not just buying things that are labeled sustainable. And also it could just be a packaging ploy. It might not actually be sustainable. So also just do research into your products that you're trying to buy beforehand. That's something that that was brought to my eyes working at the Global Compact. A lot of these companies just slap sustainable or like eco-friendly on it, and they really aren't. So if you just look into the products you're buying beforehand, it could kind of justify those larger purchases. And definitely, I think that's kind of my takeaways from being in the same boat as you guys.
Yeah, I think also to add a little bit to that, for I guess over a year now, I've been kind of a digital nomad or whatever you might call it. And so I actually wanted to show this because I've only been living from a backpack. So I think over time I've realized just like I need a lot less than we're kind of accustomed to. I think for women sometimes that might be a challenge, especially clothing and makeup, because there's kind of the tendency to promote like all these products, especially from marketing standpoint. But I think both, you know, male and female don't always need as much as we think we do. And to try to reduce just how much you buy can make a big difference. And you did bring a good point, which leads nicely into the next question is, how can we differentiate between greenwashing and products or services that are truly sustainable? And this one really came from Mackenzie, and also Melanie shared a bit on it as well.
Yeah, so not to pitch the Global Compact, but I definitely think that doing research into these companies beforehand is really helpful because, I mean, you just hear about the big name companies and what they're trying to do. And in your mind, if you try to be sustainable or know anything about sustainability, you know that they're lying. I don't want to call anyone out, but Amazon is one of the biggest ones. And it's really not a secret that they're doing this. Them saying that they're going to be carbon neutral by 2030, but you get Amazon Prime deliveries within a day or so. So those obviously don't add up. And there's really no actionable kind of results that they're doing right now to be carbon neutral. So that's kind of a really big red flag to me. And I think the Global Compact does a really great job with our reporting structure and really holding these companies accountable. So we have on our website, if you go on the Global Compact website, you can search any company that is a member, and they have to do yearly reporting, their communications on progress on the SDGs, and really what they're doing to better their sustainability and business practices. So it's really clear that you see these guidelines and you see their actions that are being, you know, that they're taking during the year to get to that point. So I think doing the research, and also if a company is truly sustainable, they will have facts and figures on their website or readily available to you. The companies that are, this is personal too, I just happen to see the companies that are greenwashing, they try to hide things and they try to put it more on the consumer, kind of like, what can you be doing rather than what we're doing? And another sustainability initiative just got launched by another very big company that I'm sure everybody has heard, but Chipotle is doing the same thing. Just on the surface, it looks like an amazing program. You get to see how much carbon and how sustainable your food is that you order, but they're not saying what they're doing behind the scenes. So they're putting it on you to make the smart choices, but really looking into the companies and seeing what they're actually doing on the forefront is really important. So obviously it takes a lot of work to get there. And I'm sure even myself included, I will just listen to what companies are saying just because I think that it sounds accurate. But just doing that extra step of research is really helpful.
Yeah, I agree with that in many ways. And also, I think it's a challenge nowadays too, because there's definitely pressure on companies to become quote unquote green. And so I think some companies are trying to take the easy way out of just appearing green. So I think from my perspective, I definitely look at sort of what's, you know, there are companies, obviously, I don't know the depth of it, but like Google, Amazon, all these companies, they have these sort of mission statements or kind of green objectives. And definitely like trying to look at sort of third parties and seeing every year, are they really keeping to that? Because like you were saying with Amazon, they do have like a going net zero or whatever. But then if you look into the news, they said they kind of like stopped, so and that's why I think also I prefer to look more at social impact businesses that from the start they already have that sort of vision or something to be green. But even then, a company like Patagonia, I read, they're doing a lot of good, but at the same time, if you think about it, if you're buying new products, that's not necessarily sustainable or doing good. So again, with our past point of just trying to buy less and also being more meaningful with your purchases, of really thinking, do I need this or is it something I want? I think for me personally, like takeout food, snacks, all those things, I think we are tempted to think, okay, we need this, or it's something we want in our lives, but in reality, it's probably something we can cut out. And I think, especially we were talking about Chipotle and fast food, I think those industries are huge about this kind of disposable kind of mentality. And obviously, it's a personal choice. Do you want the convenience of fast food or takeout or whatever? Or do you want to find some green alternative? So there is kind of a little bit of a lifestyle choice, I think, as well. So with our final question, and for those who are watching, in case you have any questions, let us know and in the comments on Facebook, and we can ask it at the end. But if there's no further questions, we have one question that kind of builds off on that. And so Mackenzie, Melanie, and myself were kind of having a discussion on this in Facebook of really, well, again, with this greenwashing, that it's a little bit hard to really know what companies are really doing. So do you have any final tips or tools people can use to find products and services with the smallest overall impact? And to sort of extend on that, Melanie kind of mentioned on how maybe one product says it's, say, organic or something like that, or doesn't use pesticides, but then at the same time, it was imported, right? So it has a carbon footprint. So how do you balance kind of all the different how do you balance all the different components of sustainability to making sure you have like the smallest impact overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think if there was an answer to that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's really, really hard to be fully sustainable. Every choice that you make, even in like this digital age, you're still having a footprint. So I think just being more conscious with your decisions is important, and really not thinking about how could I go out and make myself more sustainable rather than using the resources you already have is really important. So really just taking kind of stock of what clothing do you have, what can you reuse, what like food products can you make into a meal instead of going out to take out or buy more groceries. Kind of being sustainable in your own space is really important. So really just starting from like the small, like in your own personal circle and then going outwards. So just be more cautious. Like, are you unplugging everything after you're using it for electricity? Are you throwing away things that could be recycled? Little steps like that are really important rather than making a full switch to being fully sustainable. And then also, if you do want to take that huge jump, really do the research behind it. It might take a while, but it's really going to pay off in the end. And I think the last thing is, I know it is hard because everyone's in different places and cities, especially during COVID, there's different regulations. But I think the biggest thing is shopping local and shopping small is really important. So if you could find a local farm stand, in your community. That's what I like to do. But also, I'm in a big city, so it's kind of easier for me to do that. But I just think that's really, it's also nicer because you just know that the food is better quality, instead of just going to like a large chain grocery store. And then also shopping small as well. Seeing if there's consignment shops here in town rather than buying new clothes online and getting it shipped here from a different country or just from like a large retailer. Those are really important. And I think those are all the steps that I'm taking personally. And I hope that I'm making an impact. But yeah, just the little steps really do add up at the end of the day. And if you think that you're only doing one thing and you're not making that big of an impact, you are making an impact. Everything adds to, or overall, the big picture. So yeah, I think the little things do matter, and to focus on that.
Yeah, that's very true. I think Melanie and I once had a discussion about this idea of zero waste. And I definitely find that's quite challenging, even for myself. And just trying to find like ways to reduce. I think you said that earlier as well, because something like I mentioned, I like snacks and I eat like during the whole day. But something like, you know, buying a bag of chips, right? That actually, like if you buy it every week, that's quite a lot of plastic. So a small alternative I've made is like, instead with popcorn, what I do is like there's a bag of like kernels, and then you can put it in. I think usually I use a pan or something like that to make popcorn. So it's like you buy this small bag of kernels, and then you can use that for like a few months, right? So even just a small thing like that can make a difference. I think definitely too with clothing, that's another challenge. But you know, if there's a secondhand shop for some things, maybe it's not always as fashionable. But maybe for something like socks, or you know, something that's not as important. Yeah. So thanks for sharing. Do you have any websites or tools that you found have been useful, of like where you go to sort of find some products, or maybe even like a Facebook group or something?
Yeah, so I think this is also because I'm kind of in the corporate sustainability world, but I really like using B Team and B Lab. They have a list. Companies could sign up to be B Lab certified, which means that they're sustainable, they hit the right qualifications, and they get a little badge. So there's a list of every company on their website. And then also there's another one. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's a lot for like offices, and then also for services. So if anyone is kind of looking to hire some like consultants for work, or just a company for a job or a project that they're working on, a lot of companies are sustainable in their production and in their services. And it's a lot of something that isn't very apparent, but technology is a huge non-sustainable industry. So a lot of tech companies are trying to be more sustainable, and there's a lot of consultants and just kind of lists around there. So I mean, you could also Google it too. If you just Google a company's name and sustainability, their reports will show up, and it's not like you have to do a lot of digging. A lot of the information, all the information is public knowledge, so it will be available to you. It's just like you have to take one more step to get there, but it will really pay off. And the Global Compact, I do have to push that again, because I think that just because we focus most on large multinational companies, so really every big company you could think of, you could search them on our website, and if they are a member, you know that they're taking the step to become sustainable, and they're reporting on the progress. So you see kind of like what they're actually doing. And if they're not on there, some companies, we have explanations as to why they've either declined or kind of like where they stand on sustainability. So it's something that even like for me personally, I've just used it a lot and it's really helpful. Yeah, that's kind of what I have to go off of. And then also one final thing. So a lot of really small sustainable companies, they all know each other. So if you search like one company, I just know, so I really enjoyed this sustainable shoe company. They're called Bangs Shoes. They do giveaways with a lot of other sustainability companies. So basically you go down a rabbit hole of like all different sustainable companies, but they're all really small, owned, really show what they're doing to be sustainable. So if you have some extra time, just kind of look up some smaller companies, and I'm sure you'll find like everything that you would need to buy from them.
Yeah, for sure. I think sort of to wrap it up too, like I think buying locally for sure and trying to find maybe, smaller shops or boutiques, whatever, that might have, especially for groceries, having some local options. And definitely, I think there's also a lot of Facebook groups. I know in Toronto, there's like a zero waste Toronto group that I'm a part of, and they're really helpful. If you have a question, they're quite supportive of just like, hey, what, products would be could I use or something like that. So I think definitely finding communities that zero waste communities or maybe sustainability communities in your area, because I think that's the challenge too, is just finding something locally, because maybe some options are available in one part of the world but not always the other. So yeah, thanks for sharing all your thoughts and suggestions. For all the viewers out there who might want to get in touch with you and learn more a little bit about the Global Compact, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Thrive community, so you could send me a message on Facebook, or if you want to connect further, my LinkedIn is just my first and last name, so feel free to connect with me. And if you have any questions, just reach out. I'd be happy to talk about sustainability and companies out there.
Awesome. And are there any projects or events that are going on in the near future that might interest people? I know we have some members in Africa too.
Yeah, so I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm on the strategic events team. So we're planning, we do international convenings. So in December, on December 3rd, we're doing a regional event for all of our African networks. So we're diving into African sustainability and a lot of the political issues that are going on in Africa right now, especially in Nigeria. So it's going to be a really interesting event. All of our speakers are going to be from African companies and then companies that do work in Africa. So it's going to be very regionally focused. If you're interested in attending, please send me a message. I would be happy to extend an invite. And I think it's going to be really interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a few members, I think, from Nigeria, Rwanda, and I forget all the other countries, unfortunately, but hopefully some of them will be able to join. And thanks again so much, Sherry, for sharing all your insights.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.